Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to the final match preview of the season. Hope you guys are keeping well and safe, and Wolves are on their travels this Sunday. We're off to Arsenal, the team who were top of the Premier League for so long, but unfortunately missed out on the Premier League title. Be giving my thoughts ahead of today's game, the latest team news, and of course we'll have the opposition preview as well later on in the video. But it's been such a long season, guys, especially with the World Cup halfway through. But the season could have gone a lot worse for Wolves, considering the position that we're in. Obviously, Julen Lopetegui has come in, transformed this team. And at times, it hasn't been the prettiest of football, but he's got us into a position now where, we are going to be a Premier League team next season, which is obviously absolutely massive. Looking at the sort of the latest news and the press conferences coming about today, there's probably still question marks over his future as Wolves boss. We're not 100% sure what his position is going to be from next season. Of course, Wolves have got certain financial problems as of right now, which I'm hoping that we can get ironed out sooner rather than later. But Julen, he is our manager. He's going to be our manager from next season, and we look forward to it. Probably big news in regards to this game is that Lopetegui obviously picked up a booking in the game last week against Everton, so he's actually going to have a touchline ban for this game coming up on Sunday. So he will not be in the dugout for this game. He will obviously be there. I'm sure he'll be watching the game probably from the stands, but he will not be in the dugout for the game on Sunday. So you'd expect probably one of his assistants, possibly even Tony Roberts, to be on the dugout barking orders. From his pre-match press conference today, there hasn't been, as of right now, a huge amount of team news. And I don't know whether news is going to get released sort of after 10:30 this evening in regards to certain players. The big question marks are obviously over João Moutinho, Johnny. They were two players that were just completely missing from the squad, and we didn't see him do the sort of lap of honour after the game against Everton on Saturday. Of course, question marks over the likes of Ryan Aït-Nouri as well, who since the last international break has not got a kick for Wolves. And obviously the big one is Raul Jimenez as well. Jimenez, who felt, and it looked like he felt disrespected by Julen Lopetegui after what had happened on Saturday, refusing to bring him on. Lopetegui apologised for that, probably sort of admitted he probably got it wrong. So it'll be interesting to see if we do see Jimenez play some part of the game on Sunday against Arsenal. Of course, Arsenal are a very good team. Historically, have had very good ends to the season, but their form as of late hasn't been fantastic. And we're obviously hoping that Wolves can get a win. It'd be great to finish the season with a victory and take that momentum into the pre-season and into next year as well. In terms of a predicted lineup for me, again, it's so hard to predict player for player, but goalkeeper, again, really, really unsure on this one. I think Dan Bentley will probably keep his place again. Of course, we're not sure about his future or the future of Jose Sarr as well from next season onwards. Left back, I think he'll stick with Totti. Centre backs will be Dawson and Kilman, I'd assume, would come back in with Nelson Semedo at right back. I think Neves and Lamina will probably keep their place at central midfield as well. Cunha and Costa both to play. I'd probably keep Nunes in there and possibly even Adama Traore in there as well. But there's so many players that probably deserve game time and deserve options. Obviously, Podence played a little part last week. Hwang obviously played and got a goal, so he could easily get another start again, possibly over Adama Traore. So lots of different options there. But I spoke to James from AFTV a couple of days ago just to get his thoughts on Arsenal's season so far and what he's expecting ahead of this game. So then, James, thank you very much for jumping on Talking Wolves once again, man. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah.
All good. Yeah. Excited to talk football, talk Wolves. It
Yeah.
should be good.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal, it's been an up and down season, let's say, roller coaster of emotions, I'm sure, from your point of view, James. And it's hard to obviously pinpoint the where it sort of went. Well, you might be able to where it sort of went wrong for Arsenal. I'm sure
Mm.
at the start of the season, if somebody offered you the position that you're in now, you probably would have taken it. But I
Yeah.
suppose when you're on top for so long, it's a little bit disappointing to see how the season's ended. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think you summed it up brilliantly there, which is look, I think ultimately when the dust has settled, everything's calmed down, I think we'll all say, fair enough, a really good season of progress with a young squad that we can all see how it can get better, where it can get better, where they'll learn from these experiences. But to be on top for so long, it does feel disappointing. I think it's the manner. I think it's the manner of it. I think it's funny because Arsenal have had quite a lot of bad results in the last 4 or 5 weeks. And, we react to it every day on AFTV. After every game, there's a reaction. And the game that drew the most angry reaction from me was the most recent one against Forest. It wasn't West Ham or Liverpool who blew a 2-goal lead. It wasn't when we drew 3-3 against Southampton, against bottom of the table. It wasn't even, the Man City defeat where we actually had an opportunity to take it back in our hands and we got battered. It's not that I can understand them, but I think there was context there, but I saw a team that was fighting to the end. What really has bothered me is the second half against Brighton recently, and then that Forest game where the players just looked totally and utterly checked out. Some might say that's understandable, but I think I don't like to throw the whole for the money you're on and all that. But I just think when you take everything into account, you're professional footballers. There's pride at stake here, even if second place is secured. Go and end on as many points as possible and make City have to earn it, or at least have to celebrate it away from home. But no, we gave them their party. And I'm disappointed with the way it's ended because of that manner, but lots of positives, as you said.
Where do you think, or is there a factor that you can sort of point out where you think that was the hurdle that Arsenal, or that was the speed bump that sort of slowed Arsenal down? Is there a certain moment? Was it the Southampton game? I think was the one that sort of springs to mind where you sort of went behind quite early, and I know you had to fight back in that match, but it seemed like that was a real dent in the title push. Is there anywhere else, any other games that you think really that's where Arsenal slipped up and haven't really recovered from?
Yeah, I know you can't blame a William Saliba injury on not beating West Ham from 2-0 up and beating Southampton and all that. But he's bloody brilliant.
Yeah.
And he has been a massive miss. We are, without a shadow of a doubt, a better team when William Saliba's in it. No question. So I don't think we have this bad a run with William Saliba in the team. Having said that, with William Saliba, we also went on a little bad run back in February. So, it would have been possible as well. The big things were, there was that run of 4 games where we didn't win. Now, Liverpool, the 2-2 at Anfield, I did at the time, and I still now, I reflect on that very positively. We'd had a terrible record at Anfield. You look at the winning run they've been on since, and they were showing signs of resurgence. And they put us under immense pressure. Even though we were 2-0 up, they put us under immense pressure. We got through. I saw a team that just fought for everything just to get out with something, and they took a point. I was okay with that. I think West Ham was the damaging one. To go 2-0 up again and then throw it away again, I think there's something in the Arsenal players. They thought, hold on a second, how has this happened again 2 weeks in a row? Now, I think that was mentally quite damaging for them. And you saw that in the Southampton game where they just started total panic stations. And the thing I'd say is that, people will ask the question, did Arsenal bottle it and all that? I think the answer is yes, if you were just picking yes or no. But the context in that is, did Arsenal let the occasion get to them? When they were playing brilliantly, 2-0 up at Anfield, they were 2-0 up at West Ham, playing brilliantly. They did fight back from a really bad situation against Southampton to actually claw a draw, having been 3-1 down going into the 89th minute. You could say all that shows that actually Arsenal did in some ways thrive on the pressure and rise to it. But there were just moments that they couldn't deal with, like throwing away 2-goal leads. So I think it was those pressure moments. City stuck it on them, 1-0 down after 6 minutes, having actually had a decent chance in the first 5, and then we threw it away. So Arsenal couldn't deal with moments of adversity, and it's led to where we are now.
Yeah, and I suppose it doesn't help with City, especially since the World Cup being just as ridiculous as they have been. It's literally allowed Arsenal zero breathing space. In a normal title run, if you dropped a couple of points, City would probably drop a few points along the way as well, but they've been almost immaculate. So I think
unbelievable
for you guys, it has been very, very difficult. Mikel Arteta, though, has almost grown into this manager that we see now. And I know he had a few teething problems when he first joined Arsenal. there would have been a little bit of pressure on him. But now he's turned into a manager, a top Premier League manager that a lot of people and players and coaches are going to look up to. What do you think the future's like for him, James, at Arsenal? Do you think the board are going to be happy to back him next summer and get a squad that he can really take and hopefully push for the title again next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny, isn't it? Because actually, in 3 years of progression, you could argue that all 3 years have ended disappointingly. From the 8th place finish, but we had a run at the Europa League and we fell out of it pathetically against Villarreal. The year after, challenging for top 4, that's a jump from 8th to 5th, but it's the way we fell apart again. And then you go one further, challenging for the title, but again, it ended in quite a disappointing fashion. So I think ultimately, Arsenal are fully behind Arteta. I think the fans are too. Not everyone, some aren't, but I think largely they all are.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to back him. They backed him in windows where things weren't looking as good, and now we're being linked to Declan Rice for 100 million. So I think they are going to back him because it's the closest we've been to even challenging for 15 years. So yeah, I think they will stick by him, and I think he deserves it. There have been some real stumbles along the way. But largely this season, when you look at the full 38 games, we played really good football, and we've stuck at it with City for 33 games. So I think he deserves more support.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen Arsenal across the season. There've been some top players, Martinelli, Saka, although his goal contributions have slowed down a little bit, has had another fantastic season. Are there any players in that Arsenal squad that you don't feel they're getting enough credit for such a good season? I know you mentioned sort of Saliba earlier. Is there anyone else in that squad that you think deserves a little bit more credit for their performances?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, in a weird way, Arsenal, we all feel this about our club, right? We all do. But I feel like Arsenal need to do a little bit more sometimes to get the appreciation. Gabriel has been immense for us this year. Absolutely superb. Yes, the odd error. I challenge anyone to show me a player outside of Man City who doesn't make the odd error. He's been absolutely sublime for us. I think Ben White at right back has been fantastic. Zinchenko has been quite literally transformative to this team because he's played this left back role in such a unique way. So I think they deserve a bit more credit because Arsenal have conceded so many goals. I don't think Arsenal people want to give Arsenal defenders the credit they deserve. On an individual basis, they've been brilliant. In fact, a lot of the goals we conceded is because we've been so open and all over the place that it's actually a miracle we haven't conceded more. I mean, the defenders have had to do so much clearing up on their own. So I'd say they deserve. Martinelli, you mentioned him, but he doesn't seem to get as much respect as Bukayo Saka. I think both of them are as good as each other. And Granit Xhaka, I mean, what a season he's had. I mean, he has really come out of nowhere. Last year, he improved a lot, but this year he's played this box-to-box role that none of us thought he had in him, and he's been fantastic. So, yeah, I think a lot of those players outside of the natural forwards that get a lot of credit, I think they deserve credit for how brilliant they've been this season.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Ben White, because I've sort of brought him up in recent podcasts because he's almost a centre back being transformed to a full back, and it's something that we've seen fairly recently. I think we saw Nathan Ake do the same job, but Wolves have also done it a little bit with Totti Gomez, who's a natural, quite a well-built centre back who's been playing out at left back for us. What do you think are the pros and cons of Ben White playing at right back? Can you see almost his weaknesses going forward, or do you think has he surprised you with the way that he's attacking output playing as a right back?
The attacking output as a right back has really surprised me because let's take Nathan Ake. I mean, let's take this trend of centre backs playing a full back now.
Dan Burn is another one as well that I thought of as well. Yeah,
great example, Dan Burn. We did it with Tomiyasu, who I know he is a full back, but he's 6'2", more of a centre back. I think footballers kind of move towards it. There's trends all the time, right? That number 10s used to play all the time. Now everyone plays 4-3-3.
Yeah.
You creative midfielders are scattered in all sorts of areas. The false nine became really popular, and now everyone's going back to traditional nines as well. So, football goes through phases. And I think this centre-back or full-back thing is something that, as you got Lopetegui, right? He wants to play a really good brand of football. Arteta does too. Guardiola does too. I think they want to control the transition a little bit. They basically want to say, if we're going to get parked in your half, I need a line of players that are able to defend, so we can actually keep you pinned in. You'd think, well,
Yeah.
we're in your third, so we need more attacking players. They are looking at it slightly differently now. How can we ensure that we keep you pinned in there? So I think that's why centre backs are having so much joy at fullback now. And in terms of Ben White, I think it's a case of, he does that role because he can slot into a back three and we build up and Zinchenko moves into midfield. But he's also a bit of a trump card because while Arsenal have their shape and Saka's really wide and we're playing our football, when Saka is a little overloaded and they get 2-3 men round him and he comes inside, Ben White kind of comes from nowhere. And I don't think clubs really know who should be tracking him because your wingers probably drop back to double up on Saka anyway. So your striker's not going to come across. So does a midfielder come over to make it 3-on-2? It's a difficult one. And he has been a bit of a trump card this year. However, you can see he's not a natural right back because from about February, March, he just looked exhausted. And he has picked up form at times, but he just looks more tired. So yeah, Ben White's a great bit of analysis that you've just mentioned there in terms of his attacking output being something we didn't really expect. But it's been great. I mean, it has been a bit of a trump card for us, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the aspects, especially for Wolves, and I suppose for Arsenal, just quickly thinking about the team, it adds another more physical player, another physical presence. So for set pieces, I think especially for the teams mid-table and below, you're probably going to want to rely on set pieces a little bit more. Not that Wolves are brilliant at them, but I think introducing Totti Gomez into it allowed us to bring in another, big player. We've got the likes of Neves, Martinho if he plays. They're not very big footballers. So when you got a corner in, adds or a free kick, it adds an extra player. And I suppose Arsenal, if you've got Jesus, Saka, they're not going to be players that you're going to be aiming for from a set piece. So if you've got an extra player there at a right back, it's brilliant. And
that's a great point.
Yeah. Talking of Wolves, James, as well. I mean, I'm not sure how much you've been able to catch of us this season. Is there anyone sort of going into this game at the Emirates that you sort of worried about facing ahead of this game?
Okay, so I'm sure Arsenal fans don't have a problem with me saying this. I recently started. I play Football Manager, and I started one with Wolves.
Love that.
Because you've got a bloody good squad. You've got a really good squad. When you signed Matheus Cunha, I was very interested in that signing. I don't know how he's done for you guys. And I'll be really honest, I haven't followed Wolves too much because I think Wolves have been a really interesting story this season because am I right in thinking you were bottom going into the World Cup?
Yeah, 4 points adrift as well, yeah.
Right. So bottom 4 points adrift. Now, Lopetegui came in, which I thought was clever not to, because he started after the World Cup, right? I mean, we appointed him earlier.
Yeah. So he came to watch the game against Arsenal. That was the last
it.
one before the World Cup. But yeah, he took charge after that game. Yeah,
that was really clever. Rather than just sort of giving him a game where he wasn't really going to have an impact that quickly or whatever. That was smart. But he turned things around so quickly that he just shot up the table out of kind of nowhere. Within kind of a month or two, the work was kind of done. And every time I've looked at the table, you've been around 11th to 13th or 12th to 14th or whatever it is. So he's done a really good job. And I know there's been rumors of him moving. I would love to get your thoughts on that in a bit. But my kind of sorry, I've now forgotten the question, but my feeling on Wolves and your players that are dangerous are, I mean, I don't know if he's hit the heights since his injury, but Pedro Neto, I don't know if he's playing as much. Again, like I said, I haven't followed Wolves as much, but you've got some really top players in there. Matheus Cunha, I really like Neves as well. I think Lamina's had a really positive impact since he arrived as well. And a criminally underrated player who I'd 100% take at Arsenal, especially with the way we play with our centre-backs now, is Max Kilman. I don't know if he's having the same season but last season, whenever I watched him, I thought he looked brilliant. So yeah, apologies if I'm giving some awful analysis of
No, it's fine.
Much, but,
it's interesting. I think that the players, Neto is one that, again, he was heavily linked with Arsenal last summer, wasn't he? And then got injured towards the start of the season. He came in pretty recently, and unfortunately for him, one of his better performances was when we actually lost 6-0 to Brighton. Right. But he's had a couple of good games. Although he's out of the squad last week, he's had some good games. Cunha's another player, I think, if we can play I like him in behind the striker, almost as a free role, as a second striker. I think with a capable forward next year, he's got some sort of relationship with Diego Costa at the moment, although, both of those are quite goal shy at the moment. So I think another striker next year. Kilman as well is a strange one because I think that he has good games. He's improved a lot since he's been partnered with Craig Dawson as well. And I think he is, if Wolves are in financial trouble, as the reports are, financial fair play, I think Kilman is probably one of the most sellable assets because he's English, he's homegrown. You'll get a decent amount of money for him. But yeah, James, going into the last game of the season, obviously Arsenal, they are going to finish second place now, and quite, unfortunately, quite a few points behind Manchester City. But how are you hoping that, how do you think Arsenal are going to finish the season? Do you think you're going to end it on a high? Do you think you're going to get 3 points? I think the consolation for you is that Wolves have won just 2 games away from home. We have been absolutely awful away. Thankfully, Lopetegui's improved the home form, and that's what's kept us in the league. But what are you thinking ahead of Sunday?
Well, I mean, sometimes Dr. Arsenal like to make that record better. So, Arsenal have a knack for having a pretty poor end to the season when it matters, and then the minute it doesn't, they go and batter whoever's left. We did the same last year. Top 4 race, we were pretty poor, and we slapped Everton, who'd actually put in a bit of form to stay in the league. And we beat them 5-1 on the final day. So I'm very aware I'm on a Wolves channel, so I'll be careful what I say. Would it surprise me if we beat you 5-0? It wouldn't. But I think Arsenal, I think this is different. I think Arsenal actually just look very tired. And I do think they'll put on one final performance to thank the fans. And, I think they recognise that the last 2 games haven't been good enough. And I think they want that record to just look a little bit better. We don't need any more losses and draws. For the season we've had and the football we've played, to go winless in 12 out of the 38 games does feel like too much for the football we've played. But so I think they'll put on a show. And imagine Wolves, you mentioned the away record, but I think both teams, this could be one of 2 things. This could be a very open game where both teams are like, whatever, nothing on the line. Let's just play some football and enjoy it. Lots of goals, whatever. Or it could be a very dull affair. It could be a very, listen, you're staying up, you're finishing second. Let's just ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
So it could really be either or. But if I'm expecting one or the other, I'm going for draws. I'm expecting goals. I think there'll be goals in this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for my sake, because I'm going down to the Emirates on Sunday. I'm hoping that it is a good game, for our sake. But I don't know. I think a positive result for either side will be big going into next season, especially if I think for Arsenal been on such a rocky path. I think you don't really want to be going on to next season on the back of some really
100%.
poor results. So we'll wait and see, James. I really do hope it's a good game. And obviously, all the best for Arsenal. Hopefully, you have a good transfer window and kick off the season brightly again next season. But really appreciate you jumping on Talking Wolves, mate. I'll leave a link to James and all his socials in the description down below. And I'll catch you soon, man.
No, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. And actually, just one last word. I really do hope the Lopetegui stuff and everything sorts itself out, because I think Wolves have been fantastic since they've come into the Premier League, and I hope that continues. So no, thanks for having me on. I'm sure it'll be a great game. Enjoy it. I mean, I hope we win, but enjoy it. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be doing plenty more content next season as well.
For sure, mate. Fingers crossed. I'll see you soon. Cheers, James. So big thanks to James. I'll leave a link to him and his socials in the description down below. And I'm going to be going down to the Emirates on Sunday. Really looking forward to it. The final game of the season for Wolves, and ending the 22-23 season. Survived as a Premier League team ahead of next season, but hopefully we can sort of build on this next year, because we certainly don't want to be in the mess that we were in this year, and we certainly want to be building for something much, much better next campaign as well. I do appreciate all the support that you guys have shown us across this season, whether you've watched the match previews, the reactions, the fans react, any of our content. I really do appreciate it. It's been another successful season for us here at Talking Wolves. And yeah, as always, guys, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch you all very, very soon.